have risen from the ashes to school the masses. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Scholars Wrestling Show, episode 170. I am your man behind the microphone, Scholar Jeff. To my right is Scholar Tarek.
We are at 170. We are 30 episodes away from episode 200. We got to do something big for episode 200. I know we got 30 weeks to figure that shit out, but you know what? Just the thought, we're almost at 200 episodes of Scholars of Wrestling. The energy is coursing through the veins. The power of the warrior. The power of the clear liquid. The power! It's a new day. Yes, it is. Boom.
The power of the memes. Isn't that right, Scholar Brian?
That was more exciting than anything that happened in the WWE last week.
I was going to say, at least you didn't say this week.
It drove you away. You were just like, yeah, I'm just not there.
Last week was like, I've totally got nothing to say at all about anything.
Oh, you certainly can't say it about this week.
Nope.
So yeah, there's so much to talk about. Let's dive right in. But first, we got to kick things off right with a little bit of backstage news.
Indeed. Let's start the show how we always start the show, by peeking behind that curtain and checking in on a little
backstage news. Nah, man.
Yes, and I believe you've got a little something you wanted to talk about. Isn't that right, Tarek?
It's kind of funny. It's sort of backstage news, but also not backstage news, because I'm throwing that into topics for discussion.
Dun dun dun.
I'm writing it on the chalkboard because it's a chalkboard card we're going to use for this. All right.
Yes, what you got?
The big news that came out of last week, and people are still talking about it this week, is that WWE is planning on doing another superstar shakeup after SummerSlam. Which, the only real different factor on this one is superstars from the main roster can go down to NXT.
Aha.
What are your thoughts on that? And A, what are your thoughts on that announcement? And B, who would you want to see from the main roster go down to NXT?
I think, in general, I like it. I think it opens up a wide variety of potential challengers and fresh new blood. People who just need to get freshened up for whatever reason. In general, I think it's a very good idea. That said, there's only one name that immediately jumps to mind whenever I think of this, in terms of a main roster wrestler going down to NXT. And honestly, that one name that keeps coming to mind for me is Dolph Ziggler.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the way he is now, I just don't see him. I just keep seeing him just treading water and stagnating, just shifting from mid-card feud to mid-card feud. If you put something on like him in NXT post the next TakeOver Brooklyn after SummerSlam, to me that seems like a major angle. It would be just the thing to freshen up NXT, especially if people from NXT get called up, which there's a strong possibility that they might.
Yeah. The superstar shakeup in and of itself, skeptical, because he talks about a wide variety of challengers and all that. What happened with the last one? They went to different brands. You didn't really get a variety of new challengers. You got basically the same feuds jumping over from Raw to SmackDown. The case in point, Ambrose and The Miz. The feud never ended until last week. But so it's like, I'm skeptical because, first of all, I believe it's too soon. Them going to this again so soon after the first one, that makes me think that they think that the first superstar shakeup was a complete failure. Which, might have been. You never know. It depends on how you look at it.
I wouldn't say even call it a failure in that sense.
No, I'm saying that that them doing it so soon makes me think that the WWE thinks that it was a failure, and they need to do it again because it didn't work the first time. That's where I was going with that. As for the NXT deal, that is a wrinkle that I did not know. I only knew that they were planning on another Superstar shakeup. So, is it a good idea? Of course it is. Especially for the fact that once you bring up the new crowd after SummerSlam, what do they really got in NXT as of right now?
Who do they have right now?
Who do they have after the new crowd gets bought up? Asuka is gonna get bought up. Bobby Roode is gonna get bought up. Okay, you're probably gonna. So it's like after that, who do you have? You have Roderick Strong. You have Drew McIntyre. You have Ember Moon. Those are your big three.
Aleister Black.
That is not really getting built up.
I mean,
big right now.
With some of the bigger names going up, you could see.
It's
like,
see
okay,
it.
Now that those names are gone, they're gone to the main roster. They're building names for either Raw or SmackDown. Now you have the names who haven't really gotten a chance to shine. Now they have their opportunity to shine. They can become the bigger names.
But now that, once again, skeptical because WWE talent can go down to NXT, makes me think that WWE thinks that once they bring these people up, NXT doesn't have enough talent to get by on its own.
That's not how I see it.
That's how I feel that
WWE sees it.
WWE sees it.
I see where he's coming from.
And the major name is of course Dolph Ziggler, because what the hell is he doing right now? Seriously.
He hasn't been on. I think they're just giving him time off because he hasn't been seen in
exactly.
weeks.
So it's like he's the number one name to go down.
Well, yes and no. I didn't say he's the number one name per se.
I really think that he's the only one that makes complete sense as of now, because he's doing absolutely nothing, and he's supposedly one of the guys that everybody knows, everybody likes at some kind of deal, and he's not doing anything. So bring him.
Supposedly, somebody loves Dolph Ziggler.
Well, hold on. He's the only one who makes sense if you bring him down to NXT and use him in the way I just described. However, you can put guys on the NXT roster also for enhancement too. What do I mean by that? Well, this is the kind of thing where it actually sends me back mentally to, of all things, the WWE ECW run. Where if you think back to the original premise behind that show, you had a mix of ECW veterans, the mainstays, and a whole new crop of up-and-coming fresh talent. People they wanted to sort of groom and improve, so to speak. That, I believe, while the execution may be different now, I believe the aim and the focus is still in that same place.
I would say the execution.
Which means...
I'm sorry.
Which means that, again, if you want to inject some new life into the NXT title feud, for instance, like, let's say that Bobby Roode drops the title to Drew McIntyre. Let's say either Drew McIntyre or Bobby Roode get called up to the main roster again. There's a little bit of a void. That's when you bring in Dolph Ziggler to fill that spot. But let's say that someone lesser gets called up. Let's say, again, when Elias Sampson got called up, I didn't see that at all. I thought that he was completely crashing and burning in ECW, in NXT, and I was just like, okay, they're going to repackage this tool and then whatever. But no, they brought him up to the main roster. He's filling a spot. And I'd say he's actually doing better in that spot now than he was in NXT. Dubious results, hey. But it was more than I saw happening at the time.
Fair enough.
So my point is, like, let's say, like, pick some random mid-card guy from NXT right now. Let's say No Way Jose gets called up. Who's to say someone doesn't go down and make use of that spot? Like, say, a Kurt Hawkins, who gets suddenly very hungry after going on his 100 match losing streak and said, you know what? I'm going back down to NXT. I volunteered to go down to NXT, Now I need to get back to square one. Now I'm going to climb my ass back all the way up to the top. Suddenly, there's this freshness now. There's a new spin on an old character that we've seen for a while. Taking this example to a slightly different extreme. C.J. Parker, do you remember him?
No.
He's that sort of hippie guy who got beaten down by Kevin Owens in his debut match in NXT.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that guy.
I guess that just shows you how memorable he is.
Well, hey, that's where he was in NXT. Immediately after that, he repackaged himself as Juice Robinson and went to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I've seen some of his matches since then. I've seen some of his promos since then. He's doing damn good work. He's not going to be challenging Okada. But actually, you know what? I take that back because you know what? That's exactly what happened in the G1 Climax.
The juice is loose!
That's exactly what happened in the G1 Climax. They had a great match with Okada. Not for the title, but he still wrestled him. He still lost, but he looked good in defeat. And afterwards, he cut a really fire promo. That was way better than anything I've seen him cut in NXT.
Is that his catchphrase?
I believe it might be. But either way, my point remains the same. Sometimes you don't need to always when you transfer a new guy, you don't always have to put him at the top. You don't have to put him at the bottom. But as long as you use the right guy in the right way, in a new way, that can be just what they need to reinvigorate the character and add a lot more to whatever show you're watching. That's my thesis.
For me, I'm going to just say right now, I'm not a huge fan of having the Superstar shakeup so soon after the first one. I actually wouldn't mind them doing it after every WrestleMania.
Okay, that I can see. The execution, I like the idea fundamentally, but the execution can be very flawed.
I feel like it's very.
It's been 5 months.
It's too soon.
That's why I'm like. That's why I feel like the WWE feels like the first one was a failure, because it's like 5 months. That's all you gave it?
You see, I can understand where that logic comes from, but it's more of an immediate reaction. And to me, the immediate reaction I heard when they're doing another Superstar shakeup is more like, okay, apparently the WWE thinks we've got an audience full of chipmunks on pixie sticks, where we just can't focus, and we keep forgetting what happened a few months ago. Okay, whatever. But yeah, I definitely see what you mean, and again, it's all in the execution, like you said.
Personally, in my opinion, I feel like they should add more take some names from Raw and add them to SmackDown more than anything.
Because Raw is obliterated.
Raw is packed. It is packed with some really big names.
Raw is too packed. That's
exactly
the problem.
Exactly. It's too packed, and SmackDown. Yes, they're building up newer names. They have out of nowhere people being WWE champion and all that. At least they're trying with their smaller talent. But I feel like the one thing that's hurting SmackDown more is just the fact that now that John Cena is a quote free agent, your biggest name on that roster is Randy Orton. It's not really that big a deal that much these days. And when you have a great amount of names on Raw that can help just put some recognized big names in to get people more invested in the people that are actually starting to build character on this one. I want to see Shinsuke Nakamura versus The Miz before before this shakeup originally happened. I want to see Seth Rollins move to SmackDown and all that. What can he do for the blue brand?
You want to know what I want to see? Screw the shakeup. Bring back the draft. That was fun.
I agree.
Bring back the random, the air quotes random